So after making a video on Red Dead Redemption, I just had to follow up with their additional content. Undead Nightmare is the what if scenario for John Marston as he is set to take on the western world riddled with zombies. At the start of the game, Uncle gets bitten and infected, which led to him attacking Abigail and Abigail attacking Jack, a sort of domino effect taking place here. And John, confused as hell, decides to subdue both of them despite their now recently given zombie tendencies and is set on finding out what's going on.
I don't know what the hell's gotten into you sick, crazy bastards or what Uncle's done to you, but I'm going to get help. Stay calm. As calm as you can, seeing as both of you seem to have gotten a little excited. Probably just a fever. Jack, be kind to your mother. Abigail, teach the boy right from wrong.
Jack kinda hints at how the story will go with the book he's reading at the start of the game, and this offers an interesting dynamic as he also predicted how the canon story would end towards the back half of the main game. Now it's questionable whether this game is considered DLC or an expansion. At first glance it can be considered DLC because when it first released in 2010 it was sold as an add-on for the PS3 and 360. You know, you had to have the base game to play it, but Rockstar later released a physical copy of it which didn't require the base game but also added multiplayer horde mode and 2 DLC packs called Liars and Cheats and Legends and Killers, which in a sense could be seen as expansion worthy. This is another downside for not being around to play in the early 2010s. I'm a big fan of horde games and from the gameplay I saw it looked very fun, but at least I got to try the main story for it. Now given that this is a what if scenario, the conditions for John are very much different, if so a bit harder compared to the main game. Due to the plague outbreak, stores are now non-existent, so towns appear to be overrun and lifeless in a sense, meaning purchasing ammunition is not an option. It'll be very limited within the first hour or two, so you have to use your gun sparingly or more so as a last minute resort, which is typical of how zombie outbreaks go, you know, the Walking Dead, Days Gone style, having to scavenge, conserve, make do with the limited resources you have. Now if you play the main story for Red Dead 1, you'll recognize some familiar faces, but given the nature of this DLC, it's fair to say no one is safe, so you can expect important characters getting killed off here and there. This is set towards the end of the canon story, so you can expect familiar faces of dead characters to pop up as well. One character you can't forget is Seth though. You'll find him in this DLC doing weird Seth things.
There, John. Fancy a game of cards?
Not right this minute.
You remember Moses, John?
He's
a darn sight more loyal now than he was before. Come here, boy. Come on. Come here, boy. Oh.
What are you doing?
We were boyhood friends, John. Moses is having a tough time right now. Ain't you, pal?
What's going on?
We're playing cards. Relax, sit down.
I mean, with the undead walking the face of the earth, you crazy dumb bastard.
That ain't nothing.
Ain't nothing? I seen husbands eating wives, mothers eating sons, graves popping open and the undead rising up. It sure as shit is something.
Oh, boo-hoo. Big tough John Marston is scared of a little undead creature walking around. Moses wouldn't hurt a fly, would you, darling?
Why is he holding the cards like that?
Besides, this ain't nothing new.
The game gives you a flaming torch at the start, which gives you an advantage when taking on zombies in close quarters. Fire of course causes damage over time and will eventually kill a zombie. It takes a second but does the job. And even though it appears as a weak link when fighting large hordes, it's a very important weapon that will support you throughout your journey. You see, after arriving at Blackwater, a woman provides some valuable information about how people that are already dead are turning into zombies, to which you are pointed in the direction of a cemetery. This is where your flame torch comes in handy. For every town in Undead Nightmare, there's usually an associated cemetery which needs to be cleansed. You initiate this by burning coffins. Now, side note, I found myself laughing here for some reason. I think when you come across the absurdities of Undead Nightmare and the literalness of John, it makes for some funny comments by him, even though he's being serious 90% of the time. Like, this wasn't even funny, but it's just the way he articulated it.
She ate my daddy. You weren't a bad man, mister. You weren't. Sure, he liked to drink, but he weren't bad. And sure, he liked the company of women, but he weren't bad, mister, he weren't.
No one deserves to have their blood drunk.
And with her sister, but that weren't true, mister, it weren't.
Bro, why did you say no one deserves to have their blood drunk? I don't know why. It sounded like you said it sarcastically. It's not even funny. It's not even meant to be funny, but it's... Bro, John killed me, bro. But anyway, as you keep burning coffins, it will trigger a sort of mini horde game mode where you have to fight zombies whilst destroying them. I believe they will keep spawning until you do this, so you kind of got to multitask to get the job done. Once all the coffins are destroyed, you will have successfully plugged the source of the zombie presence. I will note that at every cemetery there is usually an associated name boss that you have to take on. This introduces zombie variants, which I thought was quite cool. Given that I'm a big fan of Days Gone, I liked how it wasn't just about taking on your standard undead zombies. It's not uncommon. Most zombie games have this style. Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood, Dying Light, The Last of Us, Resident Evil, Dead Island, and so on. But I guess given its initial release in 2010, there were only a small handful of zombie games dropping that year, and given that it's Rockstar, their main premise is GTA, so I think a lot of players would have appreciated the zombie approach and additional variants for this game. Now unfortunately there aren't many variants, but it's enough to make the gameplay a little more interesting, especially when you're having to fight in a small space like a cemetery. You have the Fresh Undead as they call it, which is your standard zombie, stronger in groups of course, but can hold on to or grapple with John, which can be a serious problem especially if you're in an overrun town. Then you have Bruisers, which appear very early in the game. They're basically just walking bullet sponges, very slow, but it takes a little more firepower to kill one. They do tend to charge at you in an attempt to knock you down, so it's always best to keep clear and fight them at a distance. Attempting to melee them may only result in disaster. Wretches don't quite have the physicality of a Bruiser, but offer ranged damage, shooting toxic bile onto John and exploding when killed. They usually only appear at very specific points on the map though. And lastly, Bolters, probably the most annoying zombie to deal with. These guys run at you on all fours, making them the fastest zombie in the game, but also makes it quite difficult to land headshots. They attack very quickly, biting and clawing at you, so again, like with the standard undead, you'd find yourself in hot water if you're swarmed by a horde, and have 1 or 2 of these guys jumping at you too. Given the time of release for this game and the zombie variant's abilities, I think it's fair to say Rockstar may have gotten some inspiration from Left 4 Dead. The unique zombies they had there felt similar to these guys, the Spitter and the Retcher, the Tank and the Bruiser, although the Charger may offer a closer resemblance, but those are the main variants. But I wanted to go back to what I said about the cemeteries. Once you cleanse one, this provides some bonuses, mainly story progression though, because some cemeteries need to be cleared to allow for new NPCs to show and offer you missions. You have a reduced zombie presence in the area, but the main event I guess you could say is the opportunity to save a town. Given that the zombie numbers have been pretty much halted by the cemetery cleansing, John gets an opportunity to get rid of the zombies in that area for good. This sort of automatically triggers and you have a progress bar at the top to give you a gauge of how many zombies are left. It's not a set number unfortunately, but the dots at least indicate waves. This is essentially a horde mission and it's a big part of the gameplay loop. Each town offers this large scale battle and depending on the area, you may have more zombies to deal with. At the beginning it's not as bad, at best you'd have maybe 10, 15, 20 zombies to kill and that's it. However, when you hit late game horde levels, it can be as high as 80, even 100 at a time. It may be an exaggeration, but it certainly did feel like that and it did take a while to complete these. You do sometimes get help from the townspeople there, so it's not just you running as a lone ranger. I thought that was quite cool to have backup so it displays that there's strong resistance in a zombie world, but also to make it seem like it's not just John doing everything himself. You see, in Undead Nightmare, I believe zombies can only be killed by fire or headshots. I was disputing this because in the early game I killed the professor with a body shot from a shotgun. It could have been the fact that it was a shotgun, maybe the stopping power was enough, but for most pistols and rifles, shooting them in the body will not kill them. You can knock them down to give yourself some breathing room, but in essence it is indeed headshots only. This is The Walking Dead, is headshots only.
Yeah.
This means you've got to be very careful when conserving ammo, especially during the early game where you only have like 10 to 15 bullets at your disposal. You cannot afford to miss shots. Of course, you don't have to fight if you don't need to. Running away and fighting another day is always an option. You can try and cheese it with the flame torch, but it is a pain having to do like a hit and run of sorts over and over again. It will take forever. I found that riding a horse is the safest way to take on hordes in this manner, as you don't have to worry about being grabbed or overwhelmed since you're moving very fast, but also you can knock zombies over, and depending on the type of horse you have, this provides an array of benefits throughout these missions. There are 4 mythical or special horses you can find. These are the 4 horses of the apocalypse: War, Death, Pestilence, and Famine. War was the first one I found, and to be honest the only one I use for the rest of the game. I think I did see Pestilence at some point but never went for it. War specializes in making it immune to explosions and fire damage, as well as having the ability to set zombies on fire. So what I would do was run back and forth through a town to kill off as many as I can with War, then finish off the rest with my guns. It's a great way to conserve ammo and make use of your horse's ability. Bearing in mind you can't do this in every area, some locations force you to fight on foot or make it difficult with horses, so you gotta be careful. As for the other three, you have Death, which is probably the best of the four, being immune to any undead damage and causing zombies to explode when touching or running into them. Pestilence is more so a tank, having high stamina and is very durable, making them hard to kill. This does not mean John is invincible while riding Pestilence though, you can still get grabbed and thrown off your horse unfortunately. I think this horse is just meant to be unkillable, so almost always be around after a horde fight. Usually horses die in as little as 1 or 2 hits, so Pestilence is far more durable. And lastly Famine, which I accidentally killed the first time somehow, sorry girl. She doesn't really have an offensive ability, just a cosmetic buzzing sound, but it does have unlimited stamina, so it's a really good horse for those long distance journeys if you need to make them. The main purpose of saving a town is to allow for better access to resources, stores and supplies, but it also enables fast travel. Because of the nature of the original game, discovering a settlement was enough to enable fast travel, but because the zombies in Undead Nightmare make it unsafe, you'd have to clear them out entirely to unlock fast travel. This is why it's recommended to clear out the towns as early as possible so you can make fast travel easier, unless you don't mind trekking on your horse all day, which isn't the end of the world. You know, you may have the horse Famine to make it somewhat bearable with the unlimited stamina. But this doesn't make it safe forever. As soon as you clear a town, the clock starts ticking and eventually it will get overrun again, which means you'll have to go back and protect it. It does take a while because there is a trophy tied to having all locations secured at the same time, so I'd recommend going for it when you're fully equipped with ammo and have a good horse. I believe this is the main premise of the gameplay loop for single player though. Once the main missions are done, this is pretty much the only action you'll have really. You know, aside from the world events where you can save civilians, do challenges and whatnot, but it's still a bit unfortunate. You know, had multiplayer still been around, I think I could have sunk way more hours into it. Although I did like how some returning characters and characters in general gave us new items, like the blunderbuss shotgun and throwables like Undead Bait, Holy Water and Boom Bait, to not only improve on the action but encourage smarter plays when dealing with large groups of zombies. Personally, I think the game sort of ends abruptly. The final mission doesn't feel like a final mission, you're sort of just dropped into it. I thought there may have been at least 5 missions left or so, but then again it's a DLC, so it only took me 5 or 6 hours to beat, not long at all, but in essence the nun explained that the outbreak isn't actually from a disease, it's a curse tied to the 4 horses of the apocalypse through sin, death and divine punishment. Hence why John's acts of clearing towns and cemeteries symbolized him as the only one who could confront the so-called supernatural plague and put an end to it altogether. Each horse has a symbolic meaning to John's acts as well, like him fighting hordes corresponds with war by confronting violence, or saving towns corresponds with famine by restoring life and order to an area. So it does seem to go a bit deeper than just trying to save his family, which was objectively the main goal. John was essentially looking for a cure, but this wasn't the case. It was more about returning a mask to its rightful place to stop the curse, and that's it really. The side missions were typically the cleansing of cemeteries, towns, etc. You did have individual NPCs that offered missions, but that's where most of the repetition came from. And alongside the unique horses, you could also hunt for the Sasquatch or Chupacabra, which had small stories tied to them as well. Zombified bounty hunts were around, and you could even obtain the Unicorn, a one-time horse where if it's lost or dies, it's gone for good. But essentially it can only be found after getting the first 4 horses. It's the fastest horse out of all of them with unlimited stamina, and zombies will not attack you whilst riding it, so it's a great horse to use for some endgame shenanigans. This is still possible after beating the game by the way. All 4 horses will still be in their respective locations throughout the whole game, so you can go for it whenever really. Except death, which is given to you at the end of the story anyway. But that's all I gotta say really. I did enjoy Undead Nightmare. I think my preference still lies with the OG Red Dead 1 in terms of story. I just feel this DLC ended way quicker than expected. However, the gameplay loops in place do allow for something that's easy to drop back into whenever, if you want to fight some undead and just mess about. And of course, the literalness of no nonsense John Marston was there to make me laugh at times, so there's that at least for me anyway. But if any of you guys played it, what did you think? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been Dre, take care and see you next time. Oh. Seth has lost the plot.
Well, Seth, sorry to interrupt your party.
Hey, John, come join us. We're having a jig. John, have you met Mary Lou? What about Francine?
I did as you asked and cleared out the rest of the graveyards. Doesn't seem to have done much good.
Good? 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 Is Dad good? Are you good?
Stop with your nonsense, you annoying fool. Sure. Listen, any idea what the hell's going on here?
No, but it's brilliant. Man turned against man. Kind-hearted neighbors turned into savage, flesh-eating monsters. This hit? It'll make a fantastic movie.
Who would enjoy that?
What?
What kind of sick person would like that?
My kind sir. The lowest common denominator. My people.
You're gone, friend.
On the contrary, sir, you misunderstand me. Come now, you're a smart fellow. Allow me to illuminate.
You're gone, friend.
Listen